Welcome back to the Bliss of the Abyss, your weekly dose of hilarity, off the wall, unique and off the planet, as it says in the iTunes description. Let's get through this pandemic together as we open slowly, irreversibly up. How are we doing out there in the internet land? It's been a lovely weekend here in London. It snowed and it was sunny. Oh, everything. And I've been doing all right. Thanks very much for asking very much. Thank you. A week into sobriety at this point and feeling very good. The bloat is gone. Hey, if you're waking up feeling bloating, it could be the booze. Cut it out, of course, then that makes you want to eat chocolate, doesn't it? So what's worse, chocolate or alcohol? Or what's better is perhaps a better way of looking at it. Chocolate or booze? Or both together, fat. So had quite a fun weekend, not doing particularly much of anything apart from looking forward to the world opening back up. Just trying to keep busy. Been auditioning for all kinds of jobs, been writing a script for a sitcom with me and my friend Carpet. With me and my friend. What, you? Yes, yeah, I've been doing it with me. That makes perfect sense. So we're on to episode 2 of our sitcom, so that's coming along very nice. And Caitlin has now had her first shot of the vaccine. AstraZeneca, thanks for asking. No blood clots so far. Please keep your fingers and toes crossed. As I understand it, the chances of getting it are vanishingly slim. Although she did have a bit of a COVID arm for a couple of weeks there, a brief flu. Yeah, we signed up to get them done at the Science Museum. When we turned up, they said, the link was more popular than we thought, so you might end up not getting your vaccine. It's like, well, why have you put it out there if we can't get it? Anyway, so we were like, okay, it will probably be really busy, and they've accidentally leaked this link to far too many people. Okay, fair enough. We don't want to take away vaccines from people who need them more, even though, there are certain underlying conditions that would mean that we're perhaps considered ahead of others without going into too much detail. But when we got there, there was no one there. I mean, the Science Museum was empty. I mean, there were stewards saying, go that way, turn this corner, queue here, except the queue was completely empty. They had one of those cordoned off things where you have to snake through in anticipation of hordes of people just waiting to get their shot, and there was no one there. So we snaked our way through this totally empty thing, went up to the front, and there's a very, very young lady taking details, and she was asking questions and basically was like, no, you can't really have it. We were like, look, can we speak to someone who actually knows something about medicine? So the head nurse came and we explained to the head nurse Caitlin's situation, and he was like, well, I'm not sure. And he kind of had a look at us and went, oh, okay, go on then, and just let us. So obviously they can. So Caitlin gets signed up. They give her the little card, AstraZeneca, first dose, give it to her. And then she turns to me and she says, and have you got an appointment? And I said, yes. And she went, okay, well, you can't have one. And at that point, it's not quite worth going through the whole thing again. So I missed my chance. But Caitlin went in there and got a shot in the arm, which was a bit annoying, really, for me. But at least one of us is protected. And so we went out and we walked home. I was feeling a bit grumpy. And Caitlin was like, it's okay. And I was like, yeah, I know. I'll just be a bit pissed off for a second. And then eventually I'll get one and stuff. But can't go and see the FA Cup final now, can I? Anyway, so she's got the vaccine. I'm a bit pissed off. And what happens? A bird shits on my coat. 'Cause when life's down, it loves to kick you in the nuts. But the good news is we now have a half-vaccinated household and there are no blood clots. And we are that much closer to being rid of this cursed virus. Anyway, enough about me. On the show today, we have the extraordinarily talented, deep and thoughtful, wonderful actor Dylan Mason. Dylan and myself have been in an amazing show called The Mikvah Project, which opened to rave reviews and transferred to a long run, which neither of us could do because we were both busy doing other projects. And Dylan, of course, has been on the West End. He's been at the National. He's a very successful and talented young performer. We don't really get into that in this conversation, actually. We talk a bit about acting and stuff, but really this is a very wide-ranging conversation about all kinds of things. Dylan's very interested, as am I, in representation and opportunities in life, in the business, on the screen, on stage. So we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of how we can improve those things as a society, as an industry. And it starts off quite abyssy and it gets a bit more blissy here and there. I think it's a really fun conversation, a real interesting one. So I'm going to stop rambling up top here. That's just to say, I hope you enjoy the episode and I'll see you next week.
You're not filming me as well, are you?
I am, because Zoom just records it, but I don't really release the video. But
yeah, cool.
I can. But it's an audio endeavour. Why? What have you got planned?
Yeah, my little striptease later on.
Wow.
Well, is already on.
That is sort of how we know each other, isn't it?
Through nudity.
Through nudity, yeah. Absolutely. But let's just tease that up the top instead. I'll give you like a proper intro, before this, so that it's not sort of awkward now as I reel off your impressive list of accomplishments. We should just talk to each other instead. So, Dylan Mason, welcome to the show. How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm doing good, man.
Yeah.
Drifting through space at the moment a little, but I'm good. I think I'm good, man. It's peaks and troughs, baby. It's peaks and troughs.
Amen. 'Twas ever thus. More so than usual? More peaking, more troughing, or the usual ups and downs?
The troughs are deeper, the peaks are higher. So, and there's lots of days in the middle as well. I've really covered all bases there.
You really have, yeah. Life's a sine wave, and you're just riding it up and down. Cool. Well, I hope that's not some horrible metaphor for you being on life support or something like that, and it's just a normal.
No, last time I checked, I'm all right. I'm sort of putting off various ailments and things like that because you can't get in the doctors these days.
No. Except unless you want to sort of Skype with them, they always seem available for a little Skype. I did myself a bit of hypochondria this morning because I've sort of felt bloated for the last couple of days, and I was looking up and it was like, it's probably something you ate, and I was like, okay, fine. And then I Google, what if it's not something I ate? And obviously it's cancer. Obviously I'm, of course, riddled with it. Like anything you look up on the internet,
it's got to come out.
It's got to come out.
Get rid of it.
Got to be stopped. But I've eased off the bad food and the drinking. I'm going sober for a bit, Dylan.
Ah, very good.
That's it. And by a bit, I mean at least a week.
Have you been drinking a lot more through lockdown, do you think? Or consuming in general more?
I definitely have fluctuated more, like the sine wave. I've had some peaks and troughs, definitely. I'd say right now I'm probably, well, what is it? It's a peak, but then like that means peak of weight, which means a trough of personal ability. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're an inverse. This is going to turn into a maths podcast.
Bring graph paper.
I'd say, I've had moments of sort of like, I'm not very proud of that week. And then you sort of try and get it together. How about you?
Yeah, quite similar. It's all that thing where I go, I've drunk like 5 days in a row now. Or, no, I've accidentally sunk like a third bottle of wine or something like that. Not on my own. Yeah. I do live with 2 other people. But
but they just watch you.
Yeah. We'll share a straw. I think it's that thing, the guilt sets in after a while, doesn't it?
Yeah. You know the best way to quiet that guilty voice?
More of the same? Yeah. I've been really working hard on that one. No, I think it's just keeping that equilibrium sometimes, isn't it? When you're out of balance, you go, then I eat salad for like 6 days. And then I've earned it again. You know what I mean? And the cycle begins again. Yeah. Those are the only 2 extremes. Just wine and lettuce. Yeah.
It is that weird thing of the world being out of balance and then trying to have the balance within yourself when we're living in such a weird time is just more of a challenge. I think I was like way more on top of things. Like when we did our play together, we should tell people how we know it, how we know one another, and all that stuff. We'll do that stuff. But when we did our play together, that was you might not have realised this at the time. That was me in peak fitness. Do you know what I mean? I was firing on all cylinders.
100%. I know.
And since then, it's just been a steady downward spiral.
Yeah, I don't have to get naked in front of random people every night now. I can do what I like. I've ticked that box. That's done.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Dylan and I met doing a play called the Mikveh Project in Richmond, which is a posh part of London. And we did a fairly short run of a piece of new writing in which there was a pool built into the middle of the stage, which was a bit cold. And we had to get naked, I think 3 times. And this was in the round as well, which presented some interesting challenges for angles. I remember us both working away that we could sort of lever ourselves in and out of the pool that wouldn't sort of reveal the worst parts of our anatomy. But that's sort of the potted history, and we can go into it a bit more. But I've talked to quite a few people. In fact, I never shut up about it, about what it was like being naked on stage, which for someone who hasn't heard, I actually found it totally fine. Wasn't a problem apart from the one performance where my brothers came and sat in the front row and averted their eyes.
It's so brilliant when you're that close to people and you see people look away from you or just ignore you. I had the 2 people who came to see my were one of my best friends sat. So the sort of 4 corners of the stage, we'd undress in them, wouldn't we? Yeah. And kind of turn around, into towels and swimming shorts and into normal clothes and such. And one of my best friends was literally next to, it's a small theatre as well, next to where I was getting changed, just staring straight ahead, the 1,000-yard stare. And the other one was sort of removing my towel before I sank into the pool. My agent just, I don't know if he booked ahead, but like slap bang in front of me with an invited guest. I was like, "Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for coming. All my hidden talents were on show that night."
Is that what you call them?
Yeah.
But were you other than that, were you like sort of self-conscious about it? Because I remember in tech, we had to do it in tech. And I remember you came up to me and you were like, "Bro, let's just fuck it. Let's just do it." All right. Because obviously we hadn't done it in rehearsals. We're not mental. We're not just sitting around naked in rehearsals. But when it comes to actually lighting the show and we're there and the pool's there and the lights are on, and you were just like,
got to really get that nice downward lighting, accentuate everything. How did I feel about it? I guess, in theory, it's been something that, you theorize to yourself and you're like, yeah, I could do that. It's not a big deal. I think I've always had that sort of mentality to things like that. I'm not grossed out by or shocked by other people's nudity. And then you go to do it yourself and you're like, okay, all right. But the power of what's in your head completely dissipated for me as soon as we just did it. And then it's not really such a big deal. I don't ever really want to do it again. No, well, not necessarily. Not that I wouldn't, but I feel like I've kind of done it now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like really freeing, I think. But yeah, it's what's in your head. I sort of stopped feeling self-conscious because also I'm not me as well, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess the only other thing was that I thought being naked, people will go, "He's not Jewish," as well. That was my only other thought with the play.
That's why we very quickly, off the cuff, got put in a little kit. Like, quick, plummets for the lad. Let's get it done. Yeah. I don't think anyone cared. I mean, I think it was interesting because we did the play as part of a festival. And were you there when we watched one of the other plays, which was, I can't remember what it was called. Was it 8 gigabytes of hardcore pornography, I think it was called. And that had a lot of nudity in it. And actually, it was a very different kind of nudity. Like ours was quite solemn and ceremonial. And like we'd get in, it would happen in the pool, you'd do your thing, you'd get out, and that would be it, right? It was very sort of, whereas this was like much more like, here I am, naked, look at my body, type thing. And I remember like our rehearsals, we were always in the space underneath them. Do you remember the noises that were
just shouting and grunting and when we're trying to be really tender with each other.
Yeah.
Especially
you just hear the screaming and crying. And it was like, I think like, I feel sort of roughly the same as you. Like, okay, I've done that now, and it wasn't as terrifying, and I'm not sort of in a rush to do it again. I'm not like, sign me up for the next naked play. But I was glad that our version was that type of nudity as opposed to the...
Yeah. I do find that weird. I think when I watch other people doing it, that kind of thing where you have to just be like bearing yourself. I don't know how comfortable I'd feel doing that. I was just quite sort of action involved, wasn't it? Sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was glad I didn't have to do any of that or swinging it around and run about. I could get into the pool quite quickly as well. You know what I mean? just get into the water. That's the objective of the scene.
So that was the first time. I mean, it was the first time for me. I think I've had my shirt off on stage, but that was the first time that you got the goods up. Yeah,
totally.
Because your background is in musical theatre, right?
That's what I trained in. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you're the all singing, all dancing, tits and teeth Dylan Mason, as I like to call you.
There are two sides to me. The tits and the teeth make up a large part. That's just mouth and tits. That's me.
So wait, where did you train again?
I trained at Arts Ed in West London.
There we go.
Yes.
How did you find it?
Yeah, it's a fantastic school. You know what I mean? They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm just careful because I don't want to get into slagging people off.
Yeah, no, of course.
You know what I mean? I had a really good time at Arts Ed. I was really, really lucky. I think I was really supported through a lot of stuff and was given a lot of opportunities. I mean, and I think it's a weird thing with drama school is that lots of people get lots of opportunities and lots of people
kind of don't.
People have already sort of made their minds up on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I guess sort of coming out of it, I felt like lots of people who I know, who I really love and are really, really talented, were kind of not fully utilised or fully realised. I feel like sometimes coming out of drama school, it's so about getting an agent, getting into work, getting the credits and things like that.
Yeah.
And making stars and things that you can kind of put out into and go, look, we're doing great. Here's all the figures, here's all the numbers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where there's not a great deal of stuff to work with longevity, work really with people's mental health as well. It's such an intense, competitive environment. And I think you need that as an actor. You have to be resilient.
Yeah.
But there's also, I think, a bit of a culture of just like, eat the shit because that's how it's going to be sometimes.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely. Yeah.
Maybe you want to edit that bit on the end of the... How was I said? Let me get really deep into the traumatic stuff straight away.
Or just get clean audio. You saying it was the best experience of my life, and I'll just snip that over.
No, but I think it's a weird thing because I feel kind of guilty about that in a way because I had a really privileged experience there, just in terms of like, and that was also because I worked really hard.
Well, yeah, I was about to say it's not like things are just handed to you. Like you say, at drama school, you have to work super hard, and there's always someone who's in half an hour before you, who's already like warmed up and doing their exercise, and you're like, oh fuck,
oh my god, 100%.
And then people who stay after you as well, and you're like, but I don't want this to be my entire. It already is my entire life, and then it's like also all of the rest of the bit.
But that's also not sustainable. I think you know what I mean. Like you burn out like that, and you can't keep doing that for your entire life because, as you know, this job is very unforgiving sometimes. And so if you put everything into that, which you're told the whole time by everyone to do, give it everything, you start like losing chunks of yourself because you're giving so much for a system that is notoriously bad at looking after people's mental health.
Yeah.
You know?
Because there's a story someone told me, I'm trying to remember if it was Georgia, who was our director, in rehearsals about the drama school. It was neither of our drama schools, so another drama school where they did this immersive, intensive thing where some people were like it was a World War II Japanese thing. Some people were soldiers, some people were prisoners of war, and some people were, what do they call them? Comfort girls, I think they call them, which is in effect prostitutes, forced. And they had to live these roles for like weeks. Like the prisoners had to like have their heads shaved. They had outside and in of class. This is the only thing they did, and they had to maintain their hierarchy and split off into their own groups. And the way it was told to me, it was like this was like super damaging. But you couldn't.
It's like Stanford prison experiment.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. But they weren't allowed to question it or anything like that, because it's seen as like, oh, you're not tough enough, you're not committed enough, you know, you got trust in the program and stuff. And I think that's what terrifies people about drama school. And maybe that's a bit what's changing a bit now. Like I don't know how much of that they'd be able to get away with now.
Yeah, there's certainly things in my training. Again, fuck it, let's do it. There's a week that we did called Sexy Week, which is basically about on stage you gotta be sexy. You know what I mean? If you're in a big dance number, or you're wearing tiny pants, and you gotta be sexy.
Yeah, you gotta move, sleep.
Yeah, which understandable. Yeah, you get that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for some people that's quite hard to do. I mean, if you've got any kind of things going on around that for other people, you know what I mean? If you're a 6 foot Adonis built like a brick shit house, then yeah, fine, Sexy Week's easy. But it was sort of like doing this dance to, was it Lenny Kravitz? Are You Gonna Go My Way?
Uh-huh.
You're in like knee pads and stuff like this. But it's like matching people together that, you know, opposite of whatever their sort of sexuality is, getting people to sort of grind on each other, to lap dance each other, make out with each other, do all kinds of stuff, and sort of perform to a member of staff who's then going to judge how sexy you are. I think anyone that I've talked to about that who doesn't go to that school goes, that's really weird. I mean, for like 18, 19-year-olds as well. You know what I mean? Like still young people, and you're in a position of power, and you're making them grind on each other.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're not sexy enough, or you're so sexy. You know what I mean? I was like, I just feel like there's ways to explore this stuff without being so damaging. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a very intense situation, but it gets built up to this big thing as well. You know what I mean? You have to buy into it. You have to.
Oh God, because everyone knows Sexy Week is coming, and
but it's that thing it's second year Sexy Week. You know what I mean? You're gonna be making out, you're gonna be doing all this stuff, and I watched some funny shit. To be fair, some like, you know, I don't agree with it, but also fucking hell, I saw someone in my year lift up one of the smallest girls in my year, put her on like a ballet bar, and pretend to eat her out.
Oh wow, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like.
And then the teacher goes, yes, it was okay. I mean, it was quite sexy. Let's try it again. This time, open your legs wider. Really get in there, Gerald. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. You're like, this doesn't seem right.
Yeah. God bless. I mean, this feels like such a mess. I feel it's because I feel sort of scared to talk about it. You know what I mean? Even now. Even though I'm not associated with any of the staff and stuff there, you know what I mean? It still feels really strange to talk about. There's always that thing of like, you're putting your life and your career in other people's hands, you know what I mean? Who are making decisions about you and are talking to other agents, other casting directors, other directors, choreographers. Mm-hmm. They have contact with these people, and they can say whatever they want about you, you know? So you have to please them. In order to succeed. And I think that's the thing that I find really difficult about it. There were times that I wasn't necessarily as true to myself as I would have liked to have been, or as hands-on with my career, because I needed to please other people. And I wanted to please other people. That's the other thing. You're within an institution whereby you want to succeed and you want people to like you. But also when you're young and that young and starting out in a career, I don't think you really sort of fully grasp how much an effect those things can have on you going forward. What things you sort of choose to sacrifice or buy into at the same time, which can affect you further on down the road, I think.
I think so, definitely. Yeah. And a lot of the time it's like there's an attitude, at least there was sometimes in my drama school, so I can't speak for yours, of sort of like, yes, we all have problems and there are challenges, just get over it and do the work type thing.
Yeah.
And that sort of very much goes against the grain of how society in general is starting to deal with anything to do with like mental health or problematic areas. It's like, it's very much now, no, give them space to talk about it, to feel it, be sensitive that they're coming from a different place from you. And it feels like drama school is almost out of lockstep in a way with the rest of society.
100%.
How much of that is because it's a bit culty and that's sort of how it needs to work, and how much of that is just an old, outdated system, do you think?
I think a lot of it's an old, outdated system. I think there's this thing of sort of gatekeepers, especially in our industry, of people who feel like they know how things work, that they can get you where you need to get to, or things like that, when actually they're sort of keeping the old way of things in place. I mean, especially with what you were talking about sort of attitudes changing, things like that. I know so many of my friends who, like a friend of mine was saying that the other day a casting director told him that he didn't get a job because he didn't come in with the black confidence that she wanted. Things like that. There's still so many outdated things. So many people in positions of influence that are really outdated, because that's always, it's been the way that it always has been.
Yeah, it's like some really difficult balance. I mean, you see it in like, if you get a breakdown in like, character type, there's some really difficult balance that I think a lot of the time the industry gets wrong, of like specifying what type of character they're looking for. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, if you do want like a confident young black person as that character, then that's one thing, as opposed to like, you yourself are not that, which is like, hold on, this is who I am. That's not fair. But then you get like breakdowns where it's like, so we're looking for a grossly overweight, ugly guy with glasses. You're like, do you have to phrase it like that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why does it have to? It's so pejorative a lot of the time. Whereas like, it's almost like you could get that right. There's a way to phrase it that doesn't attack the person's essence and more gets to the character instead of the actor behind the character.
And I think that's also, that line's kind of blurring now, especially with things like film and TV. There's this sort of idea that like, you have to be this thing. I mean, like, I feel like I'm quite like a slow burner as a person. I mean, I like to sort of gently open myself up to you rather than one of the, I'm not like super extroverted. I don't come in all guns blazing and give you all of my personality at once.
Right.
But like, I don't have to do that with a character. You know what I mean? I can still be me, and I can still play an asshole or play someone who's really confident or someone who's a bit shy. You know what I mean? That's what acting is, right? That you come in and present a character and something. Like, you don't have to be all of the things that something is on paper or that someone's looking for.
And in fact, often like some of the best performances are when it sort of goes against expectations in a way, or surprises, takes you out of left field. Like I read this thing, Ian McKellen's going to be doing Hamlet quite soon after lockdown opens, and he's 82 years old, right? And so there was this takedown piece being like, why is he taking this job from a young actor? It's ridiculous that this pensioner is playing Hamlet. The part is this, that, and the other. And yeah, I mean, you can have your thoughts on that might be different from mine. My thought was, as I was reading it, it's like, hold on, no, we do gender blind, we do race blind, we do faith blind. You know, you can have a Catholic playing a Protestant. I don't know. That's like one small example of it. So why can't we do age blind? And like, who better to read the verse than Ian McKellen? And if they're going to do the whole thing, if we're accepting that someone can be someone else, like is there a bright line that it's like, you can't do this? I don't know the answer to it. I think the industry is starting to change a bit now, right? Like you see, people being like, no, you can't play this anymore, type thing.
Absolutely. I think you see it sort of subliminally through any ensembles of any kind of show you go to see, whether that's plays or musicals or films, anything. You don't see a lot of diversity in terms of people's age, people's body weight, disability. Like races, I think is much more like in public consciousness now. So you're starting to see more things that are just cast diversity, which we love to see, and doesn't affect a story at all, unless you've got a specific angle that you want to come at it from. But people don't do the same with disability, age, and I think that's the thing, especially in musical theatre. Everybody knows that there's very little body diversity and very little disability representation, especially in musical theatre.
Right. I guess is that just the nature of the material that you're going to be performing? Like if you're doing, I think so,
but it's also well,
you know, I don't know, the pajama game or something where it's all singing, all dancing for an hour and a half. Is it just that there's no way to do it, or is that a lack of creativity in approaching the material?
It's absolutely a lack of creativity in the way that you approach the material, because people are disabled by society. You know what I mean? Right. You are still living in the world. It's just that the society around you doesn't allow you to access it, because society has decided that this is the way that we do it for able-bodied people. You know, there's no reason that someone in a wheelchair can't dance. It's just what we have defined as dancing is that you have to be able to do a pas de bourrée and a triple pirouette, or jump, or this or that.
Right.
I think that's one thing I'd really love to see, especially with musical theatre, is pushing those boundaries and finding more stories to tell, or ways of telling old stories that incorporate everyone's society. And it literally starts with something as simple as like not casting an entire ensemble who are all size 6. You know, and it's that thing that I guess we were talking about, like gatekeeping. These, you know, the people who cast those kinds of things are entrenching an old system. You know, the more that you continue to do that, then the less things will change.
Right, it just perpetuates itself over and over from generation to generation, and then they bring up the next generation of people who've been taught by them and expect they've had those expectations drilled into them, and then they replicate them, and things don't change. So,
well, I guess also for obviously, you know, T, my partner, she, when we were outside together, she had to leave because she has muscular dystrophy. Which she found out like while she was at college, so her legs sort of started to swell and she couldn't jump anymore. She couldn't rise up on her toes, and she was like a phenomenal dancer, beautiful dancer. And they said that she had to leave the course because she couldn't pass her assessments. She couldn't do the assessment routines, and there was never a conversation. Exactly, but it's something that she had built up her entire life to. You know, this was her dream. This is the thing she's always strived towards.
Yeah.
And then she didn't fit into the narrow box of what she should, in inverted commas, be. And so she had to find something completely different to do, because there wasn't even a conversation about how to make that work, you know?
That's punishing someone for something completely outside of their control.
Exactly.
That literally would not be allowed, but I mean, in so many other areas of life, but I think it is a massive blind spot and just a casual attitude. It's like a small example. I was on the tube the other day coming to Brixton, and just one stop before Brixton, they were like, The lifts are out of order, so if you need to take the lift, please find an alternative method of transport. I'm like, dude, if I'm in a wheelchair and I've got to go to Brixton and I'm arriving at Brixton and you just casually are like, yeah, you can't. It's like, it's so they're not even like a hint of care that it's like, that's going to add like an hour to this person's day that they might not have to spare because you couldn't be bothered to tell them even a bit in advance. And the facilities are so threadbare. They might have to go back 5 stops just to even find a way to get to the surface and then get to where they're going.
Exactly.
We got a long way to go on that, haven't we?
Yeah, but I think it's that thing, it's lack of empathy, and it's lack of understanding how someone else moves through the world. What we do, we're really lucky that we get to do lots of considering how other people think. But I think a lot of people are so blinkered by their own worldview. Like polarization on social media or all of that contributes to this. But people, I think, feel like everyone thinks like they do. I mean, if you've never been down the tube with someone with a disability, then you have no idea of all of the kind of pitfalls, all those little things like you just trot down 5 steps. Some people can't do that, or they need a handrail, or or complete other. BLM brought up so much of this, of like things like stop and search, or I'm totally blanking.
Which one?
Lost my train of thought. I was trying to cover too many bases. When you
covering a lot of bases. Interesting.
I know, getting real deep, real quick. Yeah. Literally, nudity to societal injustice. It's I think when you actually experience those things, or are with people who are experiencing them, who share their experiences, you go, oh my God, I've never noticed this before. And why would you? Because you've always been able to move through the world not seeing those things because you haven't had to, and then you start seeing it everywhere. I think like if you speak to like your female friends about harassment or street harassment, things like that, or like assault, and you go, oh my God, I didn't realize that this affected so many people. You're like, well, of course you did, because you're a man. So you don't ever experience it.
I heard this really interesting point the other day. There's this whole movement of like dudes who are like, not all men. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a good person. I never did it. I wouldn't ever do something. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, like, I feel the same way too. I wouldn't either. It's like, yeah, but every woman has. So like, yeah, sure, not all men. Okay, fine. But if every single woman has some, talk to any of your female friends, I guarantee you that everyone's got some kind of story. Like if it is that, and it's that widespread, then obviously it's a problem that we need to deal with in a way of not just saying, yeah, but it's not me. It's like, but that doesn't help solve anything. It's like, good for you that it's not you, but it is every one of this group. So what are we going to do about that? No.
I think it is us though as well. I think that's why people refuse it, because to say that, you haven't looked inside of yourself. I think when you sit with what people tell you like that and look at your own interactions with the world, it's quite scary, because you look at yourself and go, oh, well, I've done this thing or that thing. Oh, that's a bit eggy. Or some people wouldn't like that. If they posted that story on social media, that I'd probably get some flack for that or something. No, I think there's uncomfortable feelings that can come to the surface,
Yeah. But we're none of us perfect, are we, Dylan? I mean, it's like there's making sort of honest mistakes, right? Of that don't come from a place of hatred or ignorance, that just come from putting your foot in your mouth or accidentally making a joke that doesn't land, or misreading a situation that is meant to be serious and you try and make it light. And do you know what I mean? There could be any kind of sort of small things. And I think what we're talking about is really interesting, because it's like we want society to be more compassionate, I think is one of the takeaways we're saying here. But isn't one side of compassion also being like, but nobody is perfect, so we can't expect perfection from people who haven't experienced hardship, just like we can't from people who have.
Absolutely. I think you've really hit the nail on the head. You put that much more astutely than I did. It's empathy for others and empathy for yourself. Like, we are all victims of the same system. You know, I grew up being oppressed by the patriarchy in the same way that my female friends have been oppressed by. Let me rephrase that. Let me go back on that.
It's not the exact same.
Not in the same way. But we are all victims of the same system. You know,
yeah, but the way it affects you is different, but the system itself is going to, it's not that you can just skate by it.
Yeah, let's scrub that bit. No,
I think the takeaway is Dylan Mason is more oppressed than any.
I feel like there's going to be so many people up in my mentions getting really angry at this white guy, saying all the wrong shit. But it is, the same thing that leads to high male suicide. The same thing that leads to high male suicide rates, and then not being able to express their emotions and therefore expressing them in problematic ways, is this same wheel.
The other side, the other side of the coin
of
means
women being harassed on the street and assaulted and killed. It's different sides of the same coin that needs addressing and needs fixing, because lots of people are getting hurt. I think that it's a similar thing with things like, with anything, with Brexit and race and all stuff. There's these sort of overarching systems that need complete overhaul because they're so outdated and are made to keep certain people in power. There are certain gatekeepers.
It's like,
full circle. Very good.
Who does it? Well, yeah. Why is this in place? It's like, well, look at who it benefits. It's the people who hold the keys, and are they willing to change? It's very little evidence that they are. And you give people a chance to express themselves, and they're full of frustration at all the injustices that has been, in one way or another, put upon them, and then you get them to vote like in a yes or no thing with Brexit, and they're like, no, just because the no is like the fucking my life is all kinds of shit, because, and I look and everyone and people seem to be benefiting from it, and I'm fucking and like I sympathize with that. Like there is that to varying degrees, and some people get worse off than others, but like you say, you can't emerge unscathed.
No, and it gives you a sense of control, I think, to feel like that in what is increasingly a more chaotic and nonsensical world. To react like that gives you some semblance of control, to rage against those things or put all those feelings somewhere, and put them onto other people. You know what I mean? Sometimes that's easier to find other things to blame than to look
doing the work yourself
at everything around you and see how you fit into that and how you relate to it and what systems you uphold. So that's the thing for me. Like, I can see now through a hell of a lot of reflection and therapy and talking to my friends and family, like where I've fit into those systems and where I've benefited from them, or where I've upheld them, or where I've participated in them. And lots of times there's things that I'm not proud of, or I look back upon that person and go, like, feel sad for them, but also, like you say, compassion and realizing that you're not perfect. Like, I am working on those things, or trying to make better choices and better changes. because I can't change everything.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can't overhaul those huge systems. So all that I can affect is my world and the people around me. So those are things that you have to focus on, I think, because otherwise you just lose your mind. And I spent years and years getting like really into politics and current affairs and things like that. And I honestly just almost had a mental breakdown. I drove myself to the edge, just reading and consuming all of this stuff and feeling like I couldn't change it. It was like, it's sort of torture porn, just like lashing yourself with it and going, look, everyone, look at all this terrible stuff. And then just had to find a way to reframe it.
To rebalance it. Yeah. I do find it humbling and amazing when you see people who like poured their whole existence into being on the front lines of these things and working tirelessly against injustice and stuff like that. In the same way that I sort of think of like people who work full-time in care homes or something, dealing with people at the end of life or with very severe challenges. If you've ever done a bit of it, I've done a bit of that, and I've done and the comparison I was drawing there with, I think, with activism, I've done a bit of that as well, and it's very draining. It is it's very worthwhile. It's really important stuff. Somebody has to do it. If somebody didn't do it, the world would be a way worse place, and we wouldn't be making any progress if there weren't people out there tirelessly doing it. And I guess I feel like I don't have whatever that is. I've only got a bit of it. I don't have enough of it to be able to do that all the time. Yeah, maybe because I'm just an actor.
It's a weird one. I've had fairly similar experiences, like working in schools, things like that. I found it so draining and difficult because it's so underfunded. Like you say, this is stuff that like really, really matters in the world. You know what I mean? Educating the next generation of human beings. Like that's literally one of the most important things you can do is like have your hands on a child's mind. And it's people like scraping to get by in the same way that like nurses in the NHS are. It's just like underfunded, under-resourced, people going above and beyond and sacrificing so much for it. And those people are tired and burnt out. And that exact thing that you're saying, you're looking at these people being like, I need you to keep going. But how? How do you? God, this is a really depressing episode.
Just as a reminder.
Come for the lulls, guys.
It's called the bliss of the abyss, not just the abyss.
Literally.
No, I think
there are. Oh my God! I will tell you some. I've had some fantastic moments in school though. Like I really love working with kids, and I've done like a lot of teaching, a lot of like dance and drama, and in mainstream schools as well. To a bit of TAing, things like that. And there are just like the best moments. And for me, the best moments is when kids give you really genuine compliments. And I didn't realize this, but the school that I was working at were quite relaxed with like what you could wear to school. So my first day I came in like a shirt and smart trousers and looked like the most square guy in the building. And like weeks later I was wearing like ripped jeans and, you know what I mean, just hanging out. And one of the kids turned to me and was like, Mr. Mason, you dress like a rock star. And my heart absolutely swelled. I've honestly never felt so much self-esteem.
Right. And you're just there in like Levi's and a t-shirt. You're like, wow.
Wow. Thanks. Actually, there was another good one. When I left, the kids were like, couldn't wrap their heads around why I was leaving. And I was like, I'm an actor. You know what I mean? Like, I don't just teach. Like, what I do is like acting. And they were like, have you ever been on TV? I was like, no, but thanks. And then they went, have you ever been at the National? And I went, yes, yes, I have actually.
Lovely. These little educated youngsters, they knew.
Educated youngsters, they knew, and I got some real currency with them. So that was great.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I think that's right. Yeah, it's all about those moments where, like a light bulb, something, they find a new way of expressing something that's within them that they didn't have when you first started interacting with them. And you're like, yes, you're getting there. You're doing the thing. You're adapting and growing and getting better. It's amazing to see.
And I think also, like, I really recognise myself in a lot of the kids as well, especially like the sort of distracted, chatty. I hate that thing of like going into, and like people will be like, oh, they're not like the difficult one, but they're the difficult one. You know, when they sort of label kids like that. I'm like, no, I was that kid. You know what I mean? And look at me now, baby.
Were you the difficult kid? What do you mean?
No, I think primary school, I was, all my reports are like, talks a lot, distracted, doesn't concentrate. And I really loved school, actually, primary school. I loved it. And I loved reading and that sort of like thing, where I really got into drama. I loved art, just like anything creative. I would just like eat it. And then I went to secondary school and I went to Bournemouth School for Boys, which was a grammar school, like grey suits, all boys. And it was the worst years of my life. I absolutely hated it. And I didn't really like the person that I was there either. Like, but it was an all boys school, sort of Oxbridge aspirations. Drama and art don't matter. Lots of kind of like very male toxic energy. The headmaster, I remember saying on our first day of school, he was like, there is no bullying at Bournemouth School for Boys.
Oh, you know, well, as in none allowed, or it doesn't exist here?
No, it literally does not exist, you know. And I can tell you that is not true.
That's such a ridiculous statement.
Isn't it? And yeah, I just absolutely hated it. I was just counting down the days until I could leave. And I was just, that was the point when like drama became like my saving grace. I mean, I was like this little sort of queer emo drama kid, you know what I mean, who's like counting down until Saturday comes around just so I can sing and dance and act, you know.
Mate. How did you end up in this school?
Poor me.
So ill-fitting for you. What did you realise it was going to be like that, or were you sort of? You know, it's kind of sad. Like literally, me and my mum spoke about it. There was sort of the comp around the corner from where I lived, and we went around there on the open day, and just I loved it. Like it felt right, and there was loads of art, and the drama department was sick, and I went to the other one and it was just dead, you know what I mean? Just like, nah. But your teachers go, well, you're bright, you know what I mean? So you should do, is that thing of, you know, go to the intelligent place, go to the place with the connections and that shit, you know, but it wasn't the right fit. It's so difficult because some of the kids I teach are at that age where they're getting ready to try and take tests to get into schools, like with a grammar school or with an independent school or whatever it might be, the school that they're aiming for, and then they have to do a certain thing to get in. And you sometimes have a conversation with them, and it's weird because I'll sometimes like catch myself saying something that I'd say to an adult, just sort of like, so have you decided where you'd like to go? And it's like, how do you expect them to be able to fucking know? I mean, like even half of my adult friends are like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm trying to just make it through, man. I don't know. And you'd get this tiny mind, and you're like, so where would you like to study? What would be the best environment for you? And they're like, how can they possibly know?
I know.
But what do? You've got to move on to the next thing. You've got to somehow make a decision.
Exactly. But I think it's also you're, testing and standardizing things. making them look sort of so far in the future all the time. Where do you want to go? What are you doing? And like, what are you achieving next? Rather than like, where do you feel good? You know, like that's what I really wish I'd been asked. Well, like, does this feel like somewhere you want to come every day? You know what I mean? Is this place going to provide the things that you want? You know, not just like, are you going to be able to get the best results here? Or
right.
I guess it comes back again to stuff we were saying earlier. It's not about numbers and, you know, can a fish climb a tree? All that stuff. I don't know.
I think I've just found what I should call this episode.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, well, I mean, we've been talking for almost an hour. We've barely mentioned acting or anything. We've just been sort of talking about all the world.
There's so much stuff you can cut. Honestly, there is so much stuff that I'm happy to be left by the wayside.
Now, what I'll do is I'll send you the thing before I publish. But
I find this stuff really hard, man. I find it really hard being myself. You know, but I feel like I find it hard to be myself in terms of like social media or things that I have to put out there.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm one of those guys that like will retype it, and I don't tweet very often at all or post on Instagram, things like that. But I will rewrite it. I find it very anxiety inducing, sort of putting and wording something very specifically about how I feel. Because I feel like I have to like be rooted to it then. Like it's do or die then. I find it really, really tough.
I think that's interesting. Yeah. I've been over the lockdown and stuff getting into voiceover, trying to get a foot in that world and getting some jobs and stuff like that. And it's interesting going into it because it's acting, but it's kind of its own thing. And a lot of people are there like telling you like about how to market yourself, how to brand yourself, how to phrase that. And it's like that's the stuff that I find really hard, like writing that type of like business copy of like provide a warm, classy, informative, just sort of like I don't know, I find that just gut-wrenchingly
the elevator pitch of who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, how can I possibly encompass the multifaceted sort of size of my being in a few lines? No, I'm being facetious. But
no, but it
is that feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it is that feeling, and that's something that's it's you know, it's just business. But when you try to like comment on like something happening in culture or society or anything of that, it's like, well, I think your instinct is probably right though. It's like these things do deserve to be considered and thought about rather than just tossed into the ether without a care.
I think also there's this sort of like, I don't know, I just always feel like it will sort of come back to bite you in some kind of way or something. You know what I mean? It's like very kind of unforgiving of change and evolution. You know what I mean? The internet, that thing that you're sort of taught when you're a bit younger of like, this stuff stays there forever. I mean, even though you may have progressed in so many ways, you could have put something that at the time, and obviously hate speech and slurs and things like that do not come under this umbrella. You know what I mean? Call people out for that stuff, of course. But also like, I think people have to be able to grow and change. And you don't do that by just publicly executing everybody who's ever done something bad. You know, you got to call people into the conversation. You can't, you know, if you're excluding them, then those people are never going to have the opportunity to change and grow and do the right thing.
Yeah.
You know,
what do you think about then, like Donald Trump being removed from all those social media platforms?
I mean, it's a tough one. There's a fine line to walk with all this stuff. I mean, Donald Trump is a fascist,
right?
You know, and America and Britain are fast becoming fascist, and are probably already a very long way towards being fascist states. You know, so there is the leftist in me that wants to be like, don't you can't amplify this stuff because it is genuinely dangerous and it is reiterating so much harmful rhetoric. I think it just becomes difficult when you start going, well, this person can, this person can't. Mm-hmm. It's like those sort of ideologies kind of have to be pure in a way, but they're sort of not really. I think when you are saying inflammatory things about immigrants and posting so much misinformation as well,
so many lies,
and just constant lies, then it has to go because it is just polluting discourse. And it's one of the things that I find so sad about this government and the BBC and things like it's just like the constant lying and the constant gaslighting of the general public. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But in summary, Donald Trump should have come off Twitter. And I don't like him. I don't like him very much.
No, me either. I'm glad he's gone. I think the public sphere is a better place without his constant elevation of a liar. I don't think that's ever a good thing for society.
No.
He had this massive microphone and he was just yelling lies through it to the whole world. And he could just hold a press conference anytime he wanted, get the world's media there to film him lying. Lies that a lot of people are going to believe and will lead to real life consequences like violence or hatred or mistrust in the system, which in a way is even more insidious because then they won't take part in the future and we get less democratic when things like that happen. And it's an easier case, isn't it, when it's like such a flagrant example, and then like you said, it's like okay, but then it's a bit more complicated. But the further back we step from this extreme obvious case towards like someone who says something a bit dodgy once, it's like, well, okay, how do we deal with that situation? You can't use the same hammer for every single nail, can you? It's like,
oh my god, that is it.
Different task.
But the discourse now does not allow nuance. You know, the same system that has allowed Donald Trump, to rise to such notoriety. That system does not benefit from nuanced discourse. You know, it doesn't benefit from going, well, actually, if you really think about this thing and break it down and look at it from several different points of view and think about how other people feel, it just goes, which side are you on? You're either with us or against us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are such battle lines have been drawn now. You know, everything is polar opposites. The one that I think is always a really good indicator of that is when I'm on Twitter and I'm reading anything to do with Labour or the Conservatives. The one that I always see people write is, you know, if you criticise Labour or you criticise the Tories, but people always go, well, what about the Tories? Or, well, what about Labour? And it's like, they're not the only two points of view. You don't have to be one or the other.
Yeah.
You know, but people are so drawn into this idea that it's red or it's blue, it's left or it's right, it's X or Y.
It's like people have forgotten that it's like, even if you're watching a football game, you can be a neutral. You know, it's not the stadium is not all split. One side supports this, the other supports this. It's like, no, there's a bunch of other people some people just, I don't know, I just want to watch that one player, or I just want to see a good game, or I'm the referee, I just want to make sure it's fair, or, you know, whatever it is. There's like, I'm the ball boy, I'm just excited to be here. Whatever it is, it's like, we seem to have forgotten. It's like, no. There's this side, there's that side, and pick it now, go. It's like for every other subject also you must pick, and if you pick this side, then that probably means you're this, and I'm going to treat you as if you are.
I should also say that I'm quite opposed to sort of hard centrism as well. Like, that's something I really don't like. The kind of I hate the moral superiority of being like, well, I am a centrist, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? I see things from every angle, because I don't think that's true, for a start. And also, like I said, that keeps things in the way things, you know, you're saying, well, you're completely there with the status quo then. You know, I think you have to be able to move between the two. It's like a sliding scale. There's not, if you're always on the fence, then you're always on the fence.
Right.
You know?
Right.
That sounded like it was kind of profound, but it was actually just the same thing twice.
Yeah, that piece of
you've
audio
always got hair.
itself.
Then you've always got hair on your head.
Well, what was it? A fish can't climb a tree.
Fish can't climb a tree.
Fish can't climb a tree, my friend. But as we sort of come towards the end of the time we got together, there are a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, quite a few things that we just haven't got to.
Let's go.
How have you managed with the lockdown thing and keeping creative? Because I know you've started the play reading group, which is great. It's like a brilliant group of people that you've brought together, and we meet and we read scenes, we read plays, and it's excellent. It's a really like needed creative outlet, and no, I mean it. I really do mean it. I'm not just buttering your bread. But
no, please, more.
It's drowning in butter. But other than that fantastic thing, and you can talk about that as well, what other things have you done to keep yourself creatively nurtured during this time?
I am trying, like with my creative practice, to get back into just doing things. I feel like a lot of the time I'm really stuck in my head about like where I'm going with things, or thinking. Like, I'm very opinionated and I have excellent taste. So I really struggle with sort of getting things going. You know, I try to just do things for fun. Like, I love like photography, I love painting, I love writing, making music. And I just, I try and stop thinking about what I'm making and just make it. Because I think that's how you just start things going. And also like doing things just for fun, not making them, not worrying about them being good, literally just doing it for me. And I don't have to show anyone. You know what I mean? If there's something I'm like, oh, this is more interesting, then I can stretch things out. I feel that sort of capitalist thing of like, I have to be productive, or I have to monetize my hobbies. Yes. You know, like I'm like, oh, can I make this into a zine and sell it? Or can I make a groundbreaking debut album? I'm like, no, just fucking do it. Yeah. I think, because that's the stuff I love. And also the play reading group, like so much of my job is quite stressful now that I'm an adult and I have bills to pay, things like that, that all I wanted to do is just have that feeling of like being in a rehearsal room, not like doing a show or anything. Like, the thing that I love is sitting and talking about plays or musicals and like just getting into the bones of something, you know? And that's sort of where the play reading group came from. Because I was like, I didn't sit there for 5 weeks thinking about whether I'm going to do it or not, or how to get that. I literally just text those people and went, come on Zoom if you want to do it. And then it's rolled into something that is happening because I just did it. I didn't think about it too much, or how am I going to do it? I just did it and figured it out as it went along, because that's what everyone does with everything. You know? I think also the other thing I would say about that is I have been doing a lot of therapy over lockdown, sort of more this side of the year. And that has really, really helped.
Just talk therapy or anything like a particular practice? Yeah.
Talk therapy. Like I've been in therapy a few times. And this is sort of the longest stint that I've done so far. Yeah. And it's freed up a lot of my mind to do things like that, and also given me sort of a new perspective of just doing things to make yourself feel good, you know? Like, I'm someone that sort of really struggles with like self-esteem and things like that. And so I needed to sort of just do things that made me feel good. And it wasn't make me feel good to sit there thinking about all the things that I wasn't doing and all the things that I wasn't achieving, or the ways that I wasn't managing to monetize things. What made me feel really good was just to draw or sing or go out and take some photos or read or some of those things, you know. That really freed up a lot of my mind to try and worry a little less about that and do a little more. You know, that's a process. I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. It is I like found so much of the joy in the things that I do through just doing that. Just literally just doing it. Think about it less, just do.
I think that's a really good takeaway from this. I found that, like, I've just realized recently that, like, you know, when lockdown happened and like a lot of, same for you, like professional work was just ripped away from you, and it's just like all this time and effort, all of that just plummets. And I'm looking back, I realized like the lockdown like made me self-lockdown as well. Like I started to like limit myself in a way of thinking, of being like, well, everything's pointless, it's been taken away, so I may as well just shut down this little side of me, because who cares, and just, there we go, just lock it away, bye-bye. And I'm trying to like reopen back up my, even just for the joy of doing, like you said, like finding those things that I just hadn't realized I'd put in a vault and threw away the key. And I'm like, I haven't thrown away the key, I've got the key. It's like deep.
I'm a deep guy, man. I'm a Scorpio, water sign, you know.
Yeah. Oh man, that was
literally from the get-go. Honestly, it was like, "How are you? How is that said?" Let me pause to think before I answer this question. Oh, sorry, anyone who went to Art Ed and is probably really disappointed in me now.
It's all right. I'm sure they're fine. They probably feel exactly the same way as you. Well, look, we didn't get to talk about you being in Harry Potter or on the National. We didn't get to talk about
talk about anything that you want. I mean, I'm not busy. You're gonna be like, I'm really busy.
No. This is where one of those things where you go, I'm not busy. The other person goes, right, I've got to go. No, but because we didn't get to everything, that means that you can come back on the show in the future. We can. You see.
Make some part 2. Let's go.
You know, maybe even in person when such things are allowed. Who knows?
I love that.
Can't you just, I can't wait for it, man.
Give you such a big squeeze, man.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I got so deep so quick.
No, it's great. It's great. This has been one of the more interesting ones. It's great. No, I think it was really good, dude.
Thanks.
All that bit where you said that Hitler was right and all of that, I mean, just, it's inspirational stuff. Yeah.
Donald Trump should be allowed on Twitter, and in summary, bring it back. Make America great again.
Oh, Dylan. Oh, dear.
Be C-list actor and
C-list. I'm on the F list, mate. So yeah, good for you.
I was
like, up there on the C.
That's why I stopped. I was like, I'm really picking myself up to me. You did 4 shows of the Orange Tree. Calm down.
And they were breathtaking.
They were. That was the best thing he's ever seen, wasn't it? What's his name?
Oh yeah. Paul Miller. Artistic director.
It was Paul Miller. I doubted myself.
Yeah.
The most moving thing he's ever seen at the Orange Tree stage. Wow.
That's why they put it back on, even though we
couldn't do it. You know, I got a tattoo after.
You did?
Yeah, I've got 3 now. But that was like my closing that book. I was like, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to get a tattoo just to be like, well, I can't ever do it again anyway.
Amazing. What do you get?
Yeah, it's massive. I've got like a big moth on my arm.
Wow.
Hold on, I'll get it out.
Let's have a look. Get your moth out. Get your moth out.
Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Quite big, isn't it?
It is.
Go hard or go
amazing.
Home. I literally went in expecting it to be tiny on the back of my arm, and the tattoo artist was like, no, it has to be massive. And I was like, okay. So now I've got this huge thing on my arm. I love it. It's actually great. But
are you going to get addicted to it? Do you see yourself becoming a tattoo guy?
Yeah, 100%.
This is the way. This is the beginning.
This is the way. I have quite an slightly addictive personality. So I've got 2 more on my other arm. And I just think constantly about all the other ones that I want. Yeah, like face tats.
Yeah, man. Eyeball tats.
Oh, I love that.
Love it.
Piercings everywhere, stretches. Yeah.
It's been really lovely to talk to you, dude.
You too, my guy.
And I'll see you at the next play reading.
Yes.
Peace. Peace,
my guy. Much love.
Yeah,
love to Caitlin too.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you've enjoyed it, please give us 5 stars and consider becoming a subscriber and maybe even supporting us on Patreon. Really, really, really helps me continue making this show. If you haven't enjoyed it, then you can fuck off. Many, many thanks to Nils Hennis Steer for the amazing music and to Dave Fox for the cool artwork. Please keep coming back every week for more Bliss of the Abyss.
Message 1.